Okay. How's it going? Welcome back. I hope that you had a good spring break. I hope it was restful and you were able to, catch up on some stuff. Sleep, especially, I'm sure. Um, and yeah, now it's time to get back to work. And I wanted to start this week by going over the prompt for major writing project number two. Now, this is something, or I put the prompt up last week, but I'm not sure how many of you have seen it yet. So I wanted to take this opportunity to just kind of, go over it, give you a little bit more context, and talk about, what to expect for this project. Okay, now this writing project is going to be quite a bit different from other essays that you've written because it's not really going to be an essay. Um, this is going to be a document that sort of tracks the research that you do. Um, you can think of this almost as like how would I put it? Think of it as like a head start for essay three, which is going to be the research, uh, like the research essay. Um, like the big research paper at the end of this class. This project is designed to really, kind of help get you started along that process, right? Because oftentimes what happens is if you just assign a research paper, you know, uh, you all procrastinate and don't do any research until like the last week, and then you freak out and have to finish everything up in a couple of days, and it's rushed. And you know, I'm not judging. I was that kind of student too. But this essay or this paper is designed to kind of prevent that, to kind of get you working and get you thinking and kind of stretch out this process over a much longer period of time. Um, than if you tried to write this in one night, because that's not really how the research process is supposed to go. So, this paper is going to have three parts to it. Okay. um, the first part is going to be what's called a exploratory narrative. Okay. Essentially, what this means is that you are going to write a narrative, a first person narrative, like your story of um, you know, how you did the research and how your question has changed over time. Okay. So it really is a story. You're telling me a story about how the research process kind of developed. Um, and so what's important to remember for this part is that, I mentioned how your topic, how your question is going to change as you do more research, right? As you think more about it and you learn more about it, um, your topic will go through some changes. I read through some of your topics at on last week's discussion, um, and you're all for the most part off to a good start. Um, but yeah, some of your questions do, I can tell already you're going to have to play with them a little bit, right? Some of them are pretty broad right now, and that's okay. That they should be at this point, right? But as you start to go, you're going to find ways to, you know, kind of focus in on what it is that you're really interested in, or a topic that's more manageable for, one research paper. So, on that note, this exploratory narrative is going to be a record of all of the things that you did. Um, so you can tell me, like, kind of what you were looking at, or, like, where you found sources. But it's also a record of kind of the mental work that you've done, right? And by that I mean, how your topic has changed over time, what made you choose different things, how does your perception of the topic, developed as you've learned more and thought more about it, right? Um, so yeah, I'm interested in or I'm interested in the work that you've done, but I'm also interested in the mental work that you've done, how your research develops, okay? Um, so again, that's kind of different than other essays you might have done, but again, the focus here is on development, right? And the focus here is on getting you ready to write the next paper, I guess you could say. um, Part two is what we call an annotated bibliography. Um, and so for this, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be actually finding sources, right? So you're going to be using this as an excuse to actually do the research before you get to paper three. And here is where you're going to actually be working with some of these sources, okay? Now for this, there's going to be a minimum of 5 entries. I actually did knock this down. When I originally had this planned out, it was going to be 6 entries. Considering how this semester has gone, I figured, it would probably be better to knock that down a little bit. And then after each entry, after each citation, you're going to have 150 words to kind of summarize or explain why it's important to your research, okay? Now, I am requiring that at least 2 sources should be accessed using the library's 1304 research guide. I will explain more about that, I think, in the next video I'm putting out, which should be available this same week. I'm going to go over research in a bit more detail. So for these, I'd like you to find some sort of academic or scholarly work. And that means something that you would find that is peer-reviewed, right? And I'll show you how to find peer-reviewed articles through JSTOR or Academic Search Complete. Now, as far as like the format of part 2, this is going to be kind of similar to the short writing assignments that I had you do on music and sampling. If you remember, part of that assignment was like listing out a song and then explaining the song. It's going to be similar to that. However, I do want you to make citations like you are making a works cited page, right? So either MLA citations or APA citations where, it follows that specific format where you have like the author, then the title, and all of the citation information that you need. Again, I'm going to provide more information about how to do that. But yeah, I want this to follow that sort of citation, and then underneath, you're going to have underneath each entry, you'll have about a paragraph. I think I said about 150 words or so, that, kind of briefly summarizes or, analyzes or talks about how this is going to fit into your argument. Just kind of explaining what the source is and why it's here, right? Why did you, decide to include it? Now, I should mention here that these 5 entries that you're taking for part 2, the idea is that these will fit in with your final research paper, right? That you'll be able to take these sources and use them for major writing project number 3, which will be our final. That said, again, your research topic in question will still change even after this. After you turn this project in and start working on project number 3, you're still going to be thinking and ideas are going to be developing and changing, and your topic might be broadening or narrowing. So don't feel like you're stuck with any of the sources that you pick here, right? All this is meant to be as a record of what you have done so far when you turn it in. Okay, so if you have a source that you include on this one and you decide, this doesn't really fit with where I'm going, and you decide not to include it on paper 3, that's perfectly fine. That's normal. You might find that none of your sources that you did here are going to work because you're, kind of really making some major changes to your topic. That's fine if that's a route that you want to go down. It's going to be more work for you. And I hope that, you're able to use, some or most of the sources here for paper 3. But if they don't, don't feel like, I'm going to mark you down or you're going to get in trouble or something like that. No, I mean, the research process is messy, and so things like this will change, okay? Um, and, that said, on the other side of that, you know, um, it is probably good if some of these change from here to there, because that means that you're still developing. Now, if you get lucky and all the sources that you get for this work great, perfect. Use them all for the next paper. But there is an expectation that some of this will change from this project to your final project. Okay. um, but yeah, as far as this one goes, do your best to find stuff that really relates to or connects to the topic that you're interested in, right? That research question that you are exploring. Okay. Finally, the last part of this, part 3, is going to be a reflection on what you've done so far and a tentative thesis. Okay, so the final section will give the reader a sense of where your research stands now, what's left to be done, and what conclusions you may have drawn from participating in the conversation surrounding your question. Okay, so you can write in the first person here, right? That means you can use I, right? Like, I've done this. Here's what I'm going to do from here on out, or here's what I need to figure out. And then you're going to end with a tentative thesis. Now, your thesis here should it should be an attempt to answer the research question that you started with. Okay, so you're starting with this research question, right? You're trying to figure something out, right? You're trying to learn something or answer some kind of question. This should be your argument, right? This should be the argument that you're making. Now, keep in mind, for this project, for project 2, you want to find some question that is arguable, right? We talked about this early on, like when, for questions of rhetoric, you want to have something that you can debate. And, if no one can debate the question that you're making, then you probably need to make some changes. Or if no one can debate your thesis, you might need to make some changes there, and we could talk more about that. But yeah, your thesis statement leading into paper 3 should be one that answers your research question. Okay. Now, again, I will expect some changes from this to the next paper, right? So if you write a tentative thesis that again, tentative, that's what this means, is it's subject to change, right? If you write a thesis statement here at the end in part 3 for this paper, don't feel like you're stuck with it, right? You can still work on it and change it and develop it further as you work towards paper 3. This is more of just kind of where you're at the time, right? So as you turn in this paper and start working on the next one, where is your head at? Where is your research process at as you look forward? That's kind of the point of this essay, is it's like a benchmark, okay? Then finally, I want you to start thinking about the type of claim you're going to be making. And for this, your book outlines a couple. I think this is section 3 of your textbook. There are a few chapters on like types of arguments or types of claims. And so you could make like a definitional claim, an evaluative claim, a causal claim, a proposal. And as we get closer to that, I will talk more about that. And then, yeah, here's the due date that I have set up. Now, what I will say about this is that because this has been a tricky semester, just like for the last paper, if you start getting close to the deadline and you just feel like, hey, I just need an extra day or so, let me know, okay? I'm willing to be flexible here, but we are on a bit of a deadline. We are on a bit of a time crunch, right? The way that we kind of lost a week at not the best time. I'll say that way. But yeah, so I'm going to be working on ways to make this deadline more flexible and make sure that we have enough time to, not just finish these assignments, but be relatively happy with what you've done. Okay. I said before, it's much more important to me that you were able to write something that you're happy with, than that you turn something in right at midnight on the 10th. Um, but we do have to balance that with the time constraints of the semester. Okay, so um, yeah, just keep me in the loop. Okay, if you need more time, don't be afraid to ask for it. But let's really work for getting it finished by this date. Okay, because we're gonna have to turn around and start working towards the final. Okay. That's about it for now. If you have questions on this, on anything about this paper, uh, please reach out, shoot me an email, let me know. If you are struggling with coming up with a question, or finding sources or any of that, as we work on this over the next few weeks, please let me know. Okay. I can set up office hours. We can meet through Zoom or just talk over email or whatever it is. I'm happy to help. Okay. And I know that this whole online thing isn't maybe the best environment for this kind of communication, but I'm still trying to be there. Okay. Um, so yeah, feel free to email me. Let me know how I can help. And yeah, um, I hope that this video helped give you a better idea about this essay. So yeah,